Welcome, Age of Vintage Society. Harry Belafonte has always been more than just a good-looking singer with a soft voice who sold 150 million records and starred in numerous movies. Without regard for the consequences it could have on his career, he continued to advocate human rights, struggling for minorities like African Americans and Native Americans, as well as against apartheid in South Africa, the Vietnam War and nuclear armament in the 1980s. How Harry Belafonte wanted to make this world a better place. Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Age of Vintage channel. It has been said that in the life and work of entertainer Harry Belafonte, the worlds of music and morality do not collide, but rather balance harmoniously. In the 1950s, Belafonte introduced the colourful, bouncy melodies of calypso music to the United States, and American listeners began swaying to the jaunty Caribbean beat and singing "Deo" along with the masterful crooner. Since that time, Belafonte has used his visibility as an entertainer to cast a political spotlight on humanitarian causes, ranging from world hunger to civil rights to the plight of children in the Third World. On April 2, 1968, America watched as, for the first time, a white woman touched a black man's arm on prime-time television. The white woman was Petula Clark, the two-time Grammy-winning British singer. The black man was Harry Belafonte, the Grammy-winning American singer and civil rights advocate whose signature tune, the Banana Boat song, brought calypso music to a mainstream audience. He was a singer, actor and entertainer, but also an activist for peace and human rights. Harry Belafonte isn't only known for his light calypso sound that conquered the pop music world in the 1950s, but also for his commitment to the struggle against racial discrimination, marginalisation, hunger and poverty. Belafonte leveraged, if not sacrificed, his early commercial success in an effort to change the way his people were treated in America. He recruited famous friends, from Hollywood to Harlem, in hopes of raising funds to support civil rights, forcing the nation's quiet majority to take notice and pick a side. Belafonte, star of stage and screen, appeared in a mustard jacket, bald-headed, walking with a cane. His manner was without question that of a Hollywood icon, all long rambling stories about the great and the good, topped off with one-liners polished over years of use. Harry George Belafonte was born on March 1, 1927 in New York City, district of Harlem, to a sailor from the Caribbean island of Martinique and an unskilled worker from Jamaica. His mother was the driving force of the family, a woman, he said, possessed of cunning and enormous innate intelligence. If you ever knew my mother, you'd understand quite easily what I've become, the good and the bad of it. His father, who used to drink a lot, often beat his children, at times so badly that they ended up in the hospital. Finally, his father left the family and his mother returned to the Caribbean with Harry and his siblings. My father was not a very nice person, he explained candidly. He was a drifter. When he did show up, it was always in a state of drunkenness, and violence was the norm. The island and all its variety became his cultural reservoir. Harry was given into the care of his grandmother with the following words: "Don't let a single day pass by without making use of opportunities to fight for justice." At the outbreak of World War II, his mother retrieved him from the island and brought him back to Harlem. He tried to adapt to his new environment, a process that came with great difficulty. Neither was the young Belafonte gifted with obvious abilities. He has dyslexia and felt that his intelligence appeared to be attractive but unfulfilled. In Jamaica, music was always a part of our daily experience to sustain our spirits, he said. The only way we knew about the world was to listen to what songs said. Calypso then was not just folk music to Belafonte growing up, it was a newsflash. I found out early in my career to plunder my past, and the songs of the Caribbean were a passport to success. I didn't know that at the time. Some years later, Harry Belafonte returned to New York, where he attended high school and dreamed of a career on stage. That, however, was particularly challenging in 1950s US, where racial segregation was still practiced and people of colour were not welcome in the limelight. Harry refused to let himself be put off by that. He continued to prove his talent as an entertainer until he finally got a job in a renowned jazz club. Unable to finish high school, he enlisted in the United States Navy and served for almost 2 years as a munitions loader. After his tour of duty ended, he was honourably discharged and returned to New York City, where he worked both in the garment centre and as a janitor's assistant. Belafonte never intended to be a performer. "Well, the job could not be considered artistic, but I did the job artistically," Belafonte said. He resettled in New York City to forge a career as an actor, performing with the American Negro Theatre, while studying drama at Erwin Piscator's famed dramatic workshop, alongside the likes of Marlon Brando and Tony Curtis, just to name a few. Belafonte became thoroughly immersed in the world of theatre. Multi-talented, he also took an interest in singing. His recording career officially began at the age of 22 in 1949, when he presented himself as a pop singer. In the early 1950s, he discovered both folk music and West Indian music through the Library of Congress's American Folk Songs archives. His first wide-release single, which went on to become his signature song with audience participation in virtually all his live performances, was Matilda, recorded April 27, 1953. Belafonte also focused on the critical issues of racism, poverty and oppression, not only among the African American community, but also around the world. He knew the evils of racism personally, and his fame and success in the arts of acting and music did not shield him from racism. He particularly abhorred the naked racial practices in the American South, where he refused to perform. Paralleling this pursuit was his interest and love of jazz. He developed a relationship with the young architects of the art form, the geniuses of modern jazz, and on the occasion of his first professional appearance, he had Charlie Parker, Max Roach, Tommy Potter and Al Haig as his backup band. Later, when he began his music career in America, he said that he studied breaking down the barrier of narrow thinking of what was and wasn't American. Unlike the Masters, RCA Records, the audience response to his calypso material was staggering, making Belafonte the first artist anywhere in the world to sell 1 million copies of an album in a year. The Banana Boat song in particular was a worldwide smash. "You've never seen anything as strange as 50,000 Japanese singing Deo," he said. Belafonte's career as an entertainer had a rocky start, but in the 1950s he found great success. In the first half of 1956 alone, Belafonte had 3 top 10 albums, the most notable being Calypso, which spent 31 weeks at number 1 and helped him gain the title King of Calypso. Music was not his only successful endeavour in entertainment. Belafonte also became well known for his works on film, television and Broadway. Throughout the 1950s he appeared in film and on stage, and by the 1960s he became the first African-American television producer. Although Belafonte has had great success as an entertainer, his greatest contributions can no doubt be attributed to his political activities and humanitarianism. As a great supporter of integration during the civil rights era, Belafonte worked to break the colour barrier as an outspoken advocate. Harry Belafonte was bigger than Elvis, a knowingly fraught comparison that quickly gets released, but where Elvis built Graceland, Belafonte used the proceeds from Calypso to bankroll his friend Martin Luther King Jr.'s movement for civil rights and propel one of the paramount marches and coalitions in American history. In the 1960s he was a confidant of Martin Luther King Jr.'s. By the 1980s he was helping organise We Are the World, the anthem for famine relief in Africa. This is how We Are the World song written by Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson came into being. The song featured great artists such as Diana Ross, Ray Charles, Smokey Robinson and Bruce Springsteen. It was then released in 1985 and immediately became an international hit, raising millions of dollars. He also used his wealth to support the King family and famously bailed the leader out of the Birmingham City Jail. Belafonte credits much of his activism to the legendary actor and mentor Paul Robeson. Belafonte is the only person to talk to both King and Bobby Kennedy on a daily basis throughout those years, and secured the airlifting of a plane of Kenyan students to the United States in 1961. On that plane was Barack Obama Sr. Music has always been an expression of human emotion, with a strong tie to civil rights in America. Oftentimes Belafonte financed initiatives himself. Since entering the entertainment world and introducing Americans to calypso music, Belafonte seemed to always believe that his role as an artist also came with responsibility to use that form to help others. During this period, Belafonte bounced back and forth between two worlds, like few blacks of his time did, helping one understand the other. This included building a relationship with the Kennedy. By the early 1960s, Belafonte was already an international star. His growing star lit up movie theatres too. He won a Tony Award for his work on Broadway and was the first Jamaican American to win an Emmy. Frank Sinatra even recruited Belafonte to perform at President John F. Kennedy's inauguration gala. In 1960, President John F. Kennedy appointed Belafonte as cultural advisor for the Peace Corps. Belafonte was prominent in the contribution to the ending of the oppressive apartheid government of South Africa and for the release of his friend Nelson Mandela after 27 years of incarceration. In the 1950s and 1960s, Belafonte, influenced by the greats before him, giants like Paul Robeson and Holiday, tried to convince artists to voice what they experienced and felt. This effort led to classics such as Cook's biggest hit and Nina Simone's Mississippi Goddam. Despite being blacklisted in the US during the years of McCarthyism, Belafonte remained popular and stayed in the public eye with his singing, acting and social activism. He has continued to devote himself globally to civil and human rights issues, focusing in particular on the United States and Africa. From 1968, his activism would extend beyond domestic concerns, including causes such as HIV/AIDS prevention and treatment, the abolition of nuclear weapons, education, and the end of apartheid. He also has been a goodwill ambassador for UNICEF since 1987, and after undergoing surgery for prostate cancer, he became a spokesperson for awareness of the disease. Additionally, Harry Belafonte is also a great supporter of UNICEF as its goodwill ambassador. He also advocated greatly against the actions of the US military that took place in Iraq. However, his candidly expressed opinions have landed him in hot soup sometimes. This is especially during the time of President George W. Bush. He frequently made headlines with his bold remarks, such as referring to Bush as the greatest terrorist in the world. These were only snapshots of a truly incredible life. Belafonte is one of just 3 African Americans to complete the EGOT, winning a Grammy, Tony, Emmy and Academy Award, although one of his awards, the Oscar, was non-competitive. Whoopi Goldberg and James Earl Jones are the others. Belafonte married his first wife, Marguerite Bird, in 1948 and split in 1957. The pair had 2 daughters, Adrienne and Shari. Shari Belafonte went on to a career in entertainment, and Adrienne Biesmeyer works in humanitarian efforts in Africa. Belafonte married for a second time in 1957 to dancer Julie Robinson, and the union produced 2 children in David and Gina Belafonte. Belafonte married for a third and final time in 2008 to photographer Pamela Frank. Belafonte made an impact on screen, in addition to his recordings and stage performance. These achievements assisted him in his most vital passion, the civil rights cause. However much he loved to sing or act, Belafonte was most grateful for the access it gave him to large audiences, with whom he could make the biggest impact. By the end of the 1990s, he worked as a director and producer on film projects, breaking racial barriers and creating new opportunities for African Americans in the entertainment industry. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new here, and if you want to support my work, please visit my Patreon page. Now it is your turn. What do you think about the life and legacy of Harry Belafonte? Belafonte's accomplishments and the awards bestowed on him in the spheres of entertainment and activism show a man equally committed to musical excellence and political virtuousness.